All right, all right. Welcome to Real Estate Radio, and this is our Get to Know series as we continue with our guest, DeAnn Golden. And I'm going to get into some of the fun stuff. Well, basically how we do this, DeAnn, is I like to start with kind of a fun question. Then we get into some heart and some meat of our industry, and then we wrap it up with fun. Not that the heart of our industry and the meat of our industry isn't fun, but I've actually watched a couple of your videos, and I feel like they wait like 5, 8, 10 minutes before you start chatting. So I don't want to do that. I want to make sure that we are as interactive as possible. I'm learning a lot about you just going online, trying to figure out what we're going to be doing today. We're obviously going to talk about the big policy coming up. But DeAnn, before I do that, if you watch the Ken Jenny, you know I like to start my radio background will never go away. Sometimes I feel like, gosh, will it ever go away? No. So knowing your background a little bit, I'd like to ask the Donnie Marie question is, are you a little bit country? Or are you a little bit rock and roll?
You must have read somewhere that I secretly wanted to be Marie Osmond growing up in the 70s. I watched it every Friday night. So, I mean, I got to say, you know, with her being my idol, that's part of my background when you're from Georgia. But I kind of go both ways now. I mean, I got the playlist. This morning I had a little Chainsmokers and Imagine Dragons going.
Oh, nice.
Out. And then my kids had a little Nas X going, you know, getting ready for school with Old Town Road. And I started out playing classical piano at like second grade. So
really,
I love it all. I love it all. I love music. It tells a story and it inspires you and it can lift you up. And
yeah, I say it drives the soul, you know, and that's what we talk about. Like new age music can be for certain times of the day, country music. I love contemporary country. Not necessarily a fan of the old school, call it twangy country, but to be fair, as long as there's passion behind it, I want to listen to anything that someone's doing with passion.
And, you know, hey.
Yeah. So that's the spice. And that's really cool that Marie was a little bit of an idol for you. The classic piano into Marie Osmond. Well, no, why? Like,
it's true.
I didn't have a crush on Donnie. I actually crushed on Keith Partridge. We had to get that hair going and everything. Yeah, and
I wanted that was just wait. And I'm an only child, so you know, can't be everybody. Really? Grass is always greener, right?
Yeah, well, we just entered the TMI when I start talking about David Cassidy. Probably.
All right, let's get back to business.
Yes. Okay. So I'm excited about mainly because as a vendor for 20 plus years now, outside looking in, but I've helped and held the hands of realtors and brokers for so long. I feel like not that I have skin in the game per se, but I understand it with a passion because I try to help all the time. But with this noise around this, the pocket listings and trying to make that, you know, the human element to it. As from a consumer standpoint, you know, outside looking in again, I feel like there's a lot of noise around that. And I just want to be treated fairly and making sure I understand really what's going on. But if you don't mind, let's kind of go from the human element of this big policy coming up with the MLS. And you can give a little bit of background for everyone watching that may not understand what that means.
Great. Well, I appreciate it. And John, thank you for looking at it too from the human side, because if you've been reading any headlines in about the past 30 days or so with anything real estate related, or you subscribe to any news that's real estate, you're seeing all kinds of headlines about a definitive moment that's about to come up next week at our National Association of Realtors Conference and Expo in San Francisco. And a little background was that one of the wonderful committees, the MLS Tech and Emerging Issues Advisory Board, has brought forth a proposal, and it's kind of got known as the Clear Cooperation Statement, and it's an MLS Policy Statement 8.0. And what all that means is that there's been a lot of confusion about what's happened with marketing a home. And it happened after the downturn of the market, after the fear of foreclosures. Then we kind of entered this low inventory right as the confidence was getting back instilled in the American population to go buy a home. But we had such low inventories that there was some creative ways, if you will, coming out, and these words emerged about the American dream, the home, that institution, and what we would call a listing then started to have these words like off-market listing, hush listing, silent listing, quiet listing, hip listing, pocket listing, sleeve listing, you know, all these words that to me, I kind of view that as an oxymoron when you're talking about like the greatest American asset that most people will ever own. And then there was, yes, Don't tell. We want to sell our house. We want to get a lot of money for it. We want to move on to our next chapter in our life. But shh, don't tell anybody. And let me pause right here, John, because at the heart of this, there are those times where it should be kept quiet. There are those times, maybe it's a legal matter. Maybe there's a very messy divorce, or maybe there's a celebrity or a need for privacy. Although, I don't know about you, but TMZ and Alexa and everybody else on the news kind of knows who's moving when, and when Britney Spears is moving and how much she's selling for and all this. So, but with that, there's that choice that we have to do what's right for the consumer and what the educated consumer can understand about the different strategies. And some people have used this as a new strategy in order to get that, I call it the Apple Watch pre-hype. It's coming soon, it's coming soon, it's coming soon. And some MLSs are okay and have adopted a good policy. But NAR, in cooperation with the great leaders, and I was not a member of the committee, and I want to be really clear, I have not been the people that have been penciling this and doing this hard work. I've just been a very concerned practitioner for 25 years, and I've gotten vocal in my local Atlanta market. And I'm very eager to see how this will weigh out, because you've got a large contingent that is very much in favor of what I say, bringing clarity to come at the confusion about buying and selling a home. And I'd like to get a little bit more into what some of that confusion has been in a minute, if I can. But you also have some that have begun to utilize some of these approaches very well for their technique. And it's led, though, to frustration. And we'll go into that in just a minute.
Well, no, but their technique is, deceit is the wrong word, and I don't want to go there, but I just feel like that is the hush-hush, we're going to hide these and then let them know. No, that doesn't ever make sense to me, no matter what, because from a consumer standpoint, I just want to know what's available. And again, there can be a coming soon, as you said, that's a different category, but to think that you're going to build a strategy around almost deception, I think is really skating that fine line of integrity.
Well, John,
but to be fair, it is a little bit of a competition, is a little bit of a sport, if you will, and we want to get to the finish line first. But if you're not carrying the consumer with you, I don't think that's not a win-win. That's a win, if that makes sense.
There's been concerns of fair housing. There's been concerns of steering, discrimination. There's been a lot of impact in some markets. For instance, let's just play this out, okay? So you're my buyer, all right? I'm a realtor of 25 years, and nothing more, although I manage now, nothing more I love than helping open that American dream. And, we've gone out, we've looked all weekend or weeks. The average buyer is looking 10 weeks per National Association of Realtors last study, and they're narrowing it down after looking at endless homes online to the 10, homes that they actually go. So we spend all weekend or weeks or however long, and then I take you back to the hotel. You've come in for the weekend to finally make that final selection, and you have invested in me. You felt that I or my agents were the right agent to help you uncover that perfect home. You go out to dinner after leaving me, and you drive by 3 homes that have a coming soon rider, or you hear about from somebody that, oh, you might need to be in a certain private network, or, oh, well, you need to talk to this agent because they have certain listings they keep on a Facebook closed group or what have you. How do you feel, first of all, about your search process? And then how do you feel, John, about me as your trusted counselor and your guide who's supposed to be able to provide you all the options? How would that make you feel?
You get that uneasy question moment where you're just not sure. And more than anything else than how I feel, I'm just unsure.
That's right. And my value proposition of, you once upon a time, the realtor, we were, the gatekeeper of all the information. I grew up in the age of where the big MLS book was my booster seat. I was the daughter of a broker. And so I was 8 years old. This was back in the day before seatbelts. I'd sit on her MLS book and we'd ride around, looking at properties. But as we've evolved, now my job and my agent's job is to be able to interpret and assimilate all the different properties that you've been looking out there online. And I want to be able to tell you what all the offerings are. And again, where those are those permitted exceptions and the sellers needed to do something different. And we have these that we call office exclusives when that's what the seller wants. And that's being addressed in this policy. And then there's also the allotment for the coming soon that gives you that time to prepare for maybe staging, maybe you need repairs, maybe you need to declutter. But in some markets that the MLSs have adopted the strategy, we can get your home out there, at least to the other cooperating, and this is the key word. It's at the heart of this policy, is bringing back cooperation so that the other professionals can know what's coming. So even if you left that day, I might even be able to say, but John, there's going to be 3 more properties that I'm able to see are in the pre-marketing prep stage. And I can either have you come back or we can, send you the information. But then, rather than moving in. And can we reverse role now? So now you're a seller in the market.
Right.
And you've had the home listed. At the time I've come to list the property with you, I'm supposed to do what? Provide you a comparative market analysis and show you all the comps, correct? All the homes you're going to be competing about.
Right.
Well, what if I don't know about those homes that are on somebody's private website or on someone's email distribution, or that somebody has just gotten a signed listing agreement, but not, they've intentionally withheld it, maybe because they're going to try to do an open house this weekend. And that gets into all kinds of other violations of MLS and state laws and possibly maybe even RESPA. I mean, you name it, the gauntlet's there. Mm-hmm. But how do you feel now as I'm about to go into this relationship with you to try to market your home? If one, I don't even know what you might be really competing against. How do you feel there?
Well, that, no one thinks about that part, probably more thinking about the buyer side more than the seller side in these instances, I think, for the most part. I just find the word to be, the first C is challenging for the consumer, the other C, and then the collaboration and communication. And if the communication's not happening, like you just said, I should still know. You can protect your listing, Bob Broker, and I get that, but I should still know. That open communication, if that's not happening, the consumer's perception starts thinking, this is a little bit, I don't want to throw out the wrong adjective. I just feel like, again, uncomfortable.
They're confused. Confused, I think, is a good word. And, NAR's study on the home buyers and sellers, year after year after year after year, they are looking for agents to be, realtors to be trustworthy, great communicators, and be able to help them find the right home if they're on the buy side, and on the flip side, be able to help them sell their home. Now, one more phase to this, all right? So we get your home sold, okay? And now we're under contract. We go through due diligence. We go through inspections. We go through more negotiations. We go through getting the rotten wood off your front porch repaired. We get the stucco taken care of. We get the termite bond. You are getting excited about moving on to your next dream. And then maybe a week, 2 weeks before closing, I have to come to you and say, John, we have a hurdle. Home didn't appraise. And the reason it didn't appraise, at least in Atlanta, and this is something we've endured here, and every market's different.
Right.
Because right now, there's a preponderance of off-market listings that Freddie and Fannie Mae can't use when they're doing comps if there's not enough that have been in the MLS and exposed to the most potential buyers to really get an understanding of fair market value. So in your scenario, John, we might be up against that. We got a great price. We felt really comfortable. We knew it was priced right. But because 2 other neighbors had chosen, maybe misinformed, to use an off-market strategy, we cannot appraise your property. You can lose lots of money. Scott Murphy, a leading appraiser here in the Atlanta market, has been studying this with me for about the past 6 or 7 years and been one of the people that I've worked with in conjunction with the Georgia Real Estate Commission and our first MLS and some of our counsel at the Georgia Association of Realtors. I don't know all the answers. I'm not an attorney, but I knew if I'm letting down and my agents are letting down the consumer, we've got to start talking about it, and we've got to try to figure out a way to make this work right. But when this all happens and you realize that I can't maybe help your home appraise outside of my control, but because, again, of that confusion, I had to do something. I had to speak up about it. And so that's what we've been trying to do here in Georgia. And that's kind of what.
Well, DeAnn, I guess the point is that every market's different and every situation's different. But if we don't have the open lines of communication and we really are in our own pockets, if you will, I can't see that ever being a long-term success strategy. I can see it.
In Atlanta, I just looked at my notes. Out of the last 15,000 appraisals, that John did, that Scott Murphy did, 5% did not praise because of this condition. Now, you might say, 5% is not a lot. Well, let me tell you something. If you're one of those 750 sellers, it means a lot.
It's a significant
And
percentage.
buyers and that option, that's going to continue to put some unique conditions into the appraisals. So
I think it's a battle for everyone then. I mean, it's like the battle means we need to get together. And that was my little video over the weekend with Miss Penny. And we talked about getting together and don't let this little dog be confused trying to find the listings. I mean, I'm making light of something that's very serious.
Yeah, we've got to open more doors, not close more doors, but be respectful. Again, I'm very clear about this, to a seller that needs to make a informed decision. And I know some states across the nation have actually gotten some disclosures that where the seller can fully understand the ramification, pros and cons, that if they choose to not expose it, on the IDX feeds and publicly. And that's what, this whole policy is basically bringing down to, if I didn't say it clearly in the beginning, is that, when we go to list a property, we will enter it into the MLS. Right now, the policy's reading 24 hours, but I did read an update that an FAQ has just been posted on NAR that answers about 15 of the main questions that people have about this policy. So I would encourage anyone that's listening. Again, I'm just a practitioner, managing broker, senior vice president here, and I'm as eager to hear the vote. I respect those that are against the vote. And I just hope they'll take a time to understand. And I've been reading some of the letters and the articles that have gotten posted. And some I think have not chosen to weigh in on this because of fear of some litigiousness that may come from outside of this. And I'm going to leave that part to the smart attorneys. But I think my ask is just, let's, do the right thing. I mean, my last name's Golden, I take it to the platinum rule. Do not only how we want done unto us, but what they want done unto them.
We can still call it the golden rule, by the way, just because. That's
it's part of our preamble as a realtor too. And our code of ethics outlines cooperation. And my understanding and reading again what these passionate leaders that have taken the time to bring this to the forefront, I commend them, because if nothing else, this is opening up the discussion. Whether the vote goes through and the policy passes, to me, whatever the outcome is going to be next Monday at the board of directors, it'll be. But we've finally gotten conversation. And I hope this will, at the end of the day, again, wherever it lies, will open up better conversation to the consumer. Because if agents are confused, we know the consumer's confused.
You're exactly right. Well, the conversation has started, obviously, and we look for a resolution. We look for happy consumers and win-wins, not just wins. So, DeAnn, that's awesome. We'll this is a continuing conversation. I'll get that link from you as well, so we can get folks educated on this, because everyone's so easy to rant. Everyone's so easy to go on and do stuff online, and they don't necessarily get the full education before they go on that rant. So I think this is at least helpful to get the start of that process of really educating and understanding.
And real estate's local. Every market may have to take this back and figure out. And I saw some of your followers on your LinkedIn make a great statement about that what might be working here in Atlanta, and I'm very careful to only speak to what I know,
Right.
May not work in other markets. And so I never want to try to, impress upon others. But something that it's been really passionate for me for about the past 6 years.
Well, I'll tell you, I watched the $1 Million Listing. Yes, my wife and I are fans of the show. And Ryan Serhant was last night talking about he had basically the bottom floor of this high rise was not finished. He goes, well, it's not on the market yet, but everything's for sale. When it comes right down to it, everything's for sale. At least that's the conversation around it. But make sure everyone's in on that game. So, all right. Now, the last one, back to the fun. Not that wasn't fun, by the way. I just love seeing your passion behind it.
So
our bucket list, we found out from Ken Jenny. We just find out different things about folks, that he wants to be on that, flying that major jet and all that. I knew Ken flew planes, but I didn't know his passion for really getting behind the wheel, if you will.
Is my understanding.
So and Mr. Reinhardt's was petting the rhino. So we find out little things about folks. What's on Miss Golden's bucket list?
Oh, goodness. Lots.
Well, yeah. But that one that you're going to try to your darndest to get done.
Okay, I know what that is. My mother's 78 years old and been a broker for 40 years. I hope I can still be a real estate professional and a realtor when I am 78, because I tell you what, she is still actively listing, selling. It is her life. She loves it. She is passionate about it. She's opened so many doors to people. And, you know, I never thought about that, but I was just with her this weekend. And
well, that being the second generation, mom's still out there doing it. That's awesome to hear. And I'll say that, you know, you talk about people and their feelings about realtors. Sometimes they're saying, oh, you're still doing that real estate thing. No, it's my life. It's my passion. It's my dream to help you with your dream.
we're purveyors of the American dream is what I like to say. And it's a great honor. It really is.
Well, very enjoyable. Like I said, kind of awesome lady that I learned about online. That's what we can do and find out about folks. So thank you very much, DeAnn. I appreciate it. And on Real Estate Radio, we always end with good day.
First things first, I'ma say all the words inside my head. I'm fired up and tired of the way that things have been. Oh, oh.